small but mighty Expanse fandom. Whoa!
First of all, I want to welcome everybody to our, the Expanse panel. There are no small rows. I'm the moderator. I'm a senior writer for Friends of Comic-Con. I visited the Expanse set too in Toronto, which by the way was awesome. And I attended the International Space Development Conference where Jeff Bezos made the announcement that they were picking up the Expanse again. So yeah, I was there and it was incredible. It was totally incredible. And before the panel introduces themselves, I have a special guest video here from someone some of you might know, and especially the person who was at
Hello there, WonderCon. My name is Glenton Richards. I was a staff writer for The Expanse, and more importantly, I was the namesake for McGlenton's Whiskey, which was featured on the show. So I'm really proud about that. But just wanted to say thank you so much for your continued fandom, and sorry I couldn't make it out to WonderCon this time, but hopefully next time I could make it out. But until then, just wanted to say keep dreaming, and I hope you have a wonderful time at WonderCon. Yamsang.
We love you, Glinton.
Yamsang.
And just real quick, guys, too, as a reminder, just give us a nice rating, please, and then let them know that you want more Expanse things because there are people available. Glenton lives in L.A., and one of his good friends, by the way, is the woman who played Peaches, Nadine Nicole, and she'd love to see you all, but you have to let them know that you want to see these people, okay? Please do that. And now if the panel will introduce themselves.
Oh, that's me.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Chris Blackwood. I'm a human-centered designer and a system engineer at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory right here in Pasadena, and a huge fan of The Expanse. I run the Expanse fan group, which is small but mighty, at JPL, and we got to bring several of the people at this table, plus Glenton and Chad Coleman and Kara G and Nadine Nicole, all to JPL for a tour, and they gave a wonderful panel talk.
And Bob, too. Don't forget
and
Bob.
Bob, yes, Bob Monroe, special effects supervisor. And he, by the way, is an amazing human being. So The Expanse is life.
And the next person?
By day, I'm an HVAC commercial guy. By night, I'm the youngest. I used to be the youngest member of Ray Bradbury's group. I am no longer. In fact, we just had our annual meeting last week around the same time. You might know me as the guy who introduced Filipino martial arts to different conventions throughout the country. I do about like 8 of them and typically talk about that. And in my spare time, I used to work CGI. But I like doing Expanse renders. So it's just kind of hobby. So.
I'm Chris Keller. You might notice that we have the same name, which is quite a coincidence, but a great way to meet somebody who's wonderful. I'm a creative writing professor, probably would recognize the one place, NYU, that I taught. And I'm original Screaming Firehawk. I was one of the people that put together the campaign to save the Expanse. Woo. And
great heroes to this fandom.
Yeah.
And I'm the admin for a fan page called The Expanse Geeks on Facebook. We have 18,000 members, and please come and join us. We like to argue about everything.
Are you up to 18,000 now? Wow, I've been saying 17,000, so I need to say 18,000.
You need to click on it, yeah.
Oh, okay. You
got to click on that number.
All right. We learned something new, okay. And now our next person?
Hi there, I'm Robert Hurt. I'm an astronomer. I work at Caltech at a science and data center called IPAC, and my professional career is science communication through visualization and illustration, but I've had a lot of ties to The Expanse dating back to moderating the cast and crew panel at Caltech before they dropped the second season. I even had the pleasure of working with Kara G and Cassandvar for a couple of science videos that we produced back like after the third season of the show. But I met this crew at the JPL event, and they kind of invited me along, so happy to be here.
We got our claws into them.
Oh, it wasn't hard.
Yeah, in fact, if you get a chance to go on YouTube and find that Caltech interview, it's amazing.
It's great.
It's on YouTube, I think 2018?
Yeah, I think so, right.
Google and watch.
Real quick, levels, as they say in business, level set, okay? Just to get everyone caught up on, all the books and the novellas over here, right? So, who's read all the books?
Oh, wow.
Who's read all the novellas?
Wow.
Okay. Good. So there will be spoilers, but we're going to try to limit them to the show and the first season. Okay. And of course, we got
Could you
the
check?
six-
I'm just curious, how many people here have watched the whole show?
Oh, everybody.
Of course. Okay.
So we won't
Good.
spoil
So we
everything.
got
And
three answers.
how many
Okay.
people have never seen it or are curious?
What?
All right, so we're
guys-
recruiting you.
Thank
We're
you for
recruiting
being
for a
here. You're
treat.
probably here for the next panel, aren't you? You're just like,
GOT
it's
in
okay, we
space.
love you anyways.
Look and see who they are. We'll knock them down. We'll take them over to. I've got a hotel room, and we'll set them up, and so they can see all
binge
6
watch
seasons at one time. Okay. So we'll take care of
Yeah.
it. Don't worry. We'll take care
Pin
of
your
it.
eyes open.
Okay. And then we've got the.
Got to
Dragon
stop
Tooth-
threatening people with a good time, Michael.
Oh, with a great time. Not a good time, a great time. And we will have snacks too, and maybe some Lagavulin if you know what I'm talking about, okay? Over here, the Expanse, they had the Kickstarter, the Dragon Tooth, right?
Yeah.
It's
And so-
incredible.
Oh,
So beautiful.
Those things that they sent us, oh my God.
Yeah.
They're going to, I'll have a slide here in a second. If they do as well as they did the first time, oh my goodness, yeah.
You also got to ask him who played the Telltale games. That's another thing.
Oh,
we're not there yet. Yeah,
Did
right.
any of you play the Telltale
this one.
game? Just a few. It was good, right?
Real fan.
It made
real
me
fan,
cry.
real fan. Okay. Now, you know that we've got this new thing coming up here. Chris, you know more about it than I do. About
Yeah.
Right?
This is the next set of comics in the series that takes place after Dragon Tooth, which if you haven't read it yet, I won't spoil what happens to Dragon Tooth. Takes place after season 6 of the show and expands on what happens to different characters and people that weren't necessarily in the TV show, but were alive at the time of that story. So this moves on to the next part after Dragon Tooth, and it's written by Ty and Daniel, so there's going to be a little bit more intensity and pulling the plot more toward
And Wes,
seven.
and Wes too. Wes is actually taking part in this too. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So Wes is going to be helping out. So hopefully at some point in time we can get on get on the panel with him.
I would recommend
that
going on
launches today,
Kickstarter
doesn't
and just click on the Keep Me Informed button, and that way you'll find out when it
launches
comes
today.
out and get some
Next
of the
week.
great swag that comes with being an early bird.
And yeah, the launch is next week, and there's a special something for people who signed up in the first 24 hours. They're going to give you a special whatever. And if you did the Dragon Tooth one, they hit every milestone. Remember that? I mean, they had to make up new ones, and they got to we had like 10 milestones, and they hit every single one of those.
Yeah.
It was just incredible. Yeah.
It was the largest
Yeah.
comic book Kickstarter that they'd ever had.
Yeah.
They were astonished by how excited people were with it.
Okay, now let's go to this real quick. There are no small roles. Konstantin Stanislavski, right? If you guys, if you know anything about theater work and whatever, he was like one of the great people, acting coaches, right? And he says he's the father of modern acting, and he says that there are no small parts, only small actors. And I think that we all agree with that because these guys have small parts, but some of them have just done incredible work in doing this. And the reason why, what do the small roles do? They help create the universe of the series. They move the story forward, and they remind us that ordinary people live in that universe. Not just the heroes and heroines, right? But just ordinary people, and sometimes just doing ordinary things can be extraordinary. Oddly enough, I'll start it out by talking about my character. And I think you guys remember season 1. The XO, what he was in 1 or 2 scenes at the most, and he'd lost his mind. Remember, he was in the dirt. He spread the dirt out and was barefoot, squishing his feet in the dirt, and it's just like, and he was almost crying. It's like, why do we bring so much? It's like we make it all this way, so far into the darkness. Why couldn't we have brought more light? Hello, I mean. That's a beautiful, that line, it's an incredible line in talking about this. And what he was saying is, they cracked up and they talked about this before. These people are in space so long who aren't like the Belters who weren't born into it, and the people from Earth. And that's why he was digging his feet into the dirt. And if you remember when they back in 2015, if any of you all are too young to have been there around in 2015, right? But seriously, back in 2015, that was one of the scenes that they showed. The XO just crunching in the dirt, and we just thought that would be part of it. And it was so small; it was a very small part, but it was an incredibly important role.
It set the tone for the whole series,
Yes.
I think.
Yes.
It said, this isn't Star Trek. I love Star Trek.
Yeah.
But it said, this is not Star Trek.
No, it was just no. And you're up. Next.
Oh, I'm up?
Yeah.
Haha. So I wanted to talk about Franklin DeGraff. He, if you don't remember him, it's okay because he only had a few scenes also. He was in the very first season, in some of the very first episodes, and he was a childhood friend and mentor of Christian Avasarala. And first of all, he is queer. They mention his husband. Does anybody know his husband's name?
That's a hard one, people.
It's a hard one, so it's okay if you don't.
Anybody
All right,
know?
that's okay. I'm going to ask another trivia question in a minute. So I love the representation and that they
Wait a minute,
didn't make it.
Stop. You got to tell us who he is.
His name is Craig,
Yeah.
his husband's name.
Yeah.
And we all love Craig because he's wonderful, and they didn't make a huge deal out of it, right? It was just a thing. It was telling us that this is an enlightened future where it's okay for anyone to love whoever they love. And I loved that about this show. So then Franklin, he lets slip some intelligence about Mars because he's the ambassador from Earth to Mars. Christian uses that intelligence, and it gets Franklin fired from his job and banned from his home on Mars. The fallout of that manipulation that Avasarala does is that this man loses his life. She thinks he committed suicide at first because that's how they made it look, but it turns out he was assassinated. And I love his story because, first of all, there's so much heart in him. And second, because it shows the collateral damage of the machinations of these big people, right? They're just playing games like the gods up in Olympus, and there's fallout from it everywhere they go. And so that's why I love Franklin's story. Now, can anyone tell me the name of the actor who played Franklin DeGraff? Sadly, he passed away a couple years ago. Oh, I'm so sad. Kenneth Walsh is his name, and he did an amazing job.
I have a question real quick to ask you. Do you think that Christian, when she was in his home after he passed, do you think she started to figure out that he was murdered while she was there?
Good question.
That's a really good question, and I'd want to rewatch. I think she is so cunning, but I also think she might have been overcome by her guilt because she knew that she screwed him over. Excuse my French. Are there children?
But she also knew him well enough to think that he wouldn't commit suicide. Guys, real quick, what does the audience think about that one? Because that's an actual question.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think?
Yeah, if anybody couldn't hear her, she said that Christian knew it wasn't in his character to commit suicide, so she may have suspected it.
I think that's very perceptive.
My favorite minor character is really a major character is the Proto, especially even for each successive season, just because we're going to see that happen in our lifetime. Like we kind of have that already, like a proto hive mind. Like we have the internet, which is like a Kardashev level 1 telephone system, essentially. And then we go to different viral threads, subreddits, right? And then we see positive and negative consequences of that in our society. So yeah, my favorite minor character is the proto molecule.
But that's season 1 too, because in season 1 we didn't really know what was going on, and so we knew there was something happening there, but it was a really minor character who winds up being the character.
The character, yeah. So the thing is, my question to get my prize, and this is like a big telephone book on the history of San Diego Comic-Con, essentially, because this is the legacy of that. And so you get to find out, and I'm kind of tied to it directly through marriage, through family, because I know some of the original plank holders like Greg Baird, George Clayton Johnson, all those guys, among Alex Nino. So there's 2 other space opera intellectual properties around the same time as The Expanse. There's 2 video games. And they had their start at from tabletop gaming. Can you name them? They share a lot of commonality with The Expanse.
And the writers...
They're big franchises. So if you guys played... Say it? No.
But
very easy. It's very easy. Come on.
The writers talked about it.
Come up with both of them?
Yeah, I would say.
I have one. But
What's one?
Cyberpunk?
No.
He gave you the clue what he was wearing too, so yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm literally wearing Mass Effect. What was the other one?
Yeah. think of. Well, what do you think?
That's okay. Come up.
Okay. Yeah. Come on up.
It's Halo. I mean, because, if you run down the list of items that Halo, Mass Effect, and The Expanse have in common, I mean, it's the same story, basically.
Okay.
Even same ending.
And the writers do love those games, although they said they weren't inspired by them.
But they played them. All right.
Yeah.
Chris?
Oh, okay. My first most important secondary character, small role, is Ade. And the reason for that is that even though she's on for a very short period of time, she gives the focus of what's going on with the Canterbury. She's the one that leads them to the Scopuli and convinces Holden, because she's sleeping with him, to go after the Scopuli instead of deleting the log. So I have a little theory about her, and that is that when they were originally writing it, they were kind of hinting around that she was working with Protogen for several reasons. One of them is that she just happens to catch that Scopuli call. And the other one is that when you watch on, I think it's episode 9, somebody in that part of the Anubis says, hang on to that girl, Julie. She's a complication. Let's hope the Canterbury gets the bait. So they knew it was the Canterbury. They were trying to get the Canterbury. And I think that Ade was on there as a mole thinking that this was just going to be they were just going to catch it and, not blow it up. She did not believe that she was going to be killed. So that's my little theory about Ade.
Well, remember, it was too that one line that Holden said about, hey, it's going to be the pirates, and we'll negotiate the release and everything else.
And that's what causes her to say, Jim, there's something I should tell you. Yeah. And when you look at her face when she's saying it, she's not scared. She's like trying to explain something. She's got that look of hesitancy, like, should I tell? So, and then she's gone. And I know Ty says, oh, it's just that's how death is. You never get to know the next part of the story, which is true. But I think there is something going on in the background there that they never really go into detail about, which The Expanse is famous for. And
did you have a prize?
Did I have a prize?
Yeah. Did you have a prize you wanted?
Do you have a trivia question?
I have something in here, but it's nothing as fancy as what you all have. I'm sorry. I don't get it.
She's plenty fancy. She came out here all the way from New York, you guys.
Yeah. And she would normally.
She's a NOLA native too.
Let's see what I got in here.
Okay.
I have a Rocinante button. How did Ade meet Jim? What was she doing with Jim when they first met?
Oh,
Don't we?
They were in the
Start the
cafe.
show.
They were in the little cafeteria, the galley.
Was that the first scene?
No, she said it. She said it. Who said that?
There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Come and get your prize.
They were what? That was
Nice.
That was
Showed him
nice.
how to make good coffee using matches.
Yeah.
There you go. I still haven't figured out what they're doing with self-strike matches on a ship full of oxygen,
Oh,
hydrogen.
that was something extra. All right, Robert.
So the secondary character, if you will, that I chose for this first round was Captain Yao of the Donager. And I would say when I first watched the show cold, and I had not read the books, one of the most powerful, emotional scenes for me was this moment. So you set the scene, right? The crew of the Canterbury that survived has been taken up by the Martians, but immediately before being taken up, they've broadcast Mars destroyed the Canterbury. Captain Yao knows this is a lie. This is not true. She has every reason to look at these people as terrorists who are working against her, but she typifies not the kind of captain you want to base a show around, but the kind of captain you want to serve under and out there, because she is the embodiment of calm, rational professionalism. She's a manager in all the best senses of what that term could and should be, and seldom is in our world. And the way, and when she brings Holden in and has a face-to-face, which is one of the reason I say in some ways I actually love the show more than the books, because, for instance, this scene never happens in the books.
Right.
They never have that meeting. But this opportunity for her to face this person and say, look, I'm going to offer you a way out, but you have to turn in your friends, because this is clearly the most logical answer for why this is all happening. He refuses. But when the situation goes south, and they are under attack by the Anubis, and all of a sudden, her entire world has been inverted. Everything she's prepared for makes no sense anymore. She has the intellectual capacity to say, maybe I did not see the whole picture. Maybe this is not the right narrative. And this seems even more relevant to me today in many ways. The ability to say, hey, maybe the narrative that I'm just tripling down on isn't actually the right one. Let's take in the evidence, let's look at what's going on, and be able to pivot and change into a new situation. And and so going allows Holden to leave with the Rocinante with the hope that he will go out there and actually try to diffuse the situation that he set up. I think she is a remarkable character, and to the very end of this point where the Doniger, which the flagship of the Martian fleet, is about to fall to these literally unknown forces. Her last comment is, I didn't think
we could lose. That's why it's so devastating.
And it's so devastating, but it is, I know, there's so much power to that performance.
Yeah.
And in that character, I think she just set such an incredible tone for me for the series, a very, very high water mark for me moving forward.
Spectacular line.
But I think, the wonderful thing about that line too is just that she had the realization that, remember when they first saw them, they were so sure they'd win that it just didn't occur to them that they couldn't. And then when the reality set in there, she made that decision very quickly to scuttle the ship so it couldn't be, caught. But this goes back to my next person, right, is Lieutenant Lopez. The Martians, those two Martians exemplified the best of Mars. Because Lieutenant, when he said, it would have been nice to see an ocean on Mars. They had that vision. They had that unified vision. And there's some of us who are old enough to remember the space program in the 60s, and the U.S., when we had a vision of going to space, of going to the moon, landing safely on the moon, and returning those people safely. It was a vision given to us by a flawed person, but it was a beautiful, beautiful vision. And this person was martyred, but at the same time, we had I don't know, just the idea of what we could do, of what the country could do. And the fact is, you look back on what computing power they had back in the day and what they accomplished because we had a unified vision. And so when I see the Martians, I see that unified vision. It would have been great to see an ocean on Mars. He had that vision. And also, too, when he gave him control of the Rocinante, he followed the orders to his death. He did exactly what he was ordered to do because that was the right thing to do, and that's how Mars had that vision before the gate opened up, which we're not going into. But to me, they exemplified Mars and Mars at its best. Up here, Mars at its best. I love Greg Burke, who played the part to the max. He played it to the T. It was just perfect. But when he said it he said it would have been nice to see an ocean on Mars, Yeah. And he meant it, and then he sent them off. And remember, because he gave them full control of the ship, they were able to escape. And because that was his order, and he wanted to see that Mars was finally cleared of this whole mess.
And he's why we all have cars named Rocinante now. So my second favorite small character is Shed. Bless his heart, poor Shed. Most of our main characters, they're calm and cool under fire. They know what they're doing. They're professionals. Shed, I think, is probably like more of all of us would be, right? He doesn't know what he's doing. He's terrified. He's a glorified EMT. And when we first meet him, he is doing what?
He's repairing that arm, though.
Surgery.
No. What'd you say?
Oh, that was
He was hot.
Yes. Come get your DVD.
What was he doing? Again?
Or Blu-ray, sorry.
He was doing DMT, man. That's fine.
He was getting people high. He was selling drugs, right?
Because he was trying to give Holden to buy something.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Thank you very much. So he's a mess, right? But he's capable. He has skills. He's there for a reason. but he hasn't got the fortitude or the presence of mind to be able to handle the high stress situations. And you can tell he's got a past, he's got history, and it's all there in the actor, I think his name is Paulo Costanzo's performance. It's all there. And so to me, Shed said a lot about, oh, not all the people. These are, our four heroes are extraordinary people. Not all the people in this world are like that.
My second other favorite character is Admiral Souther. When Ray Bradbury and the rest of Ray Bradbury's cadre was alive, I had this conversation with them about like, oh, when you were all in your writing prime, there was a lot of like apocalypse type books of like rebuilding society type of thing. And they always hated those stories because they're saying like, well, that's great and everything to like try to, very romantic notion to like start anew and like have a clean slate. But there's like babies that are having a great life in that world, right? And so Admiral Souther is like the face of like the good bureaucracy, of trying to run things good in spite of morons like Sorrento Gillis, you know?
Bobbleheads.
And unfortunately he paid his life for it, you know what I mean, in the end. So, and we're kind of, you all have to keep that in mind. Like this is say like, oh, I hate everything, I hate government. They make our roads. They're the reason why the lights is on, you know? Your public university, so
planes fly.
Yeah,
you know.
So that's the thing is like you can hate all you want, you can be romantic all you want and all that type of nonsense, but those are the guys that keep the lights on. Those are the guys that keep the flames from flying. So remember that.
When the Nguyen's get rid of the Southers, be
afraid. Be very afraid.
Well, and the other thing too about Admiral Souther, if you remember in the bar. Officer Rala offered to get him a scotch, which some of us up here know about. You know, she pronounced it Lagavulin, right? But it's pronounced Lagavulin, okay?
She can call it anything she wants.
She can,
Yeah.
She's the queen of the world, okay?
Yeah.
The queen of the world can say what she wants to say. That's it, okay? But that's one of the first times in the TV show that we're actually introduced to it. It was introduced later on, and it's definitely in the books. And so we'll always say for us, it's always going to be the booze, if you will, or the liquor of the Expanse is always going to be Lagavulin.
Lagavulin.
Okay, so just to let you know, in case you ever get invited. So Chris?
He's not actually offering a bottle at this moment, but
yeah, none of us have it. Yeah, we're not allowed to.
Comic-Con wouldn't approve.
Yeah, we're not allowed to. We're not allowed to.
So my second nominee for an important small role is Gia, the sex worker at the very beginning. She's the very first Belter woman that we meet. She introduces us to the kind of underground economy of the Belt. Like she's sitting in her room with the dead man on the floor who came in to try to hustle her. And somebody else came in and killed him while she was sitting there. And they all left and she's holding the bag. So her conversation with Miller is the first real Belter back and forth dialogue that we hear and understand. She, during her time on the screen, you learn about what her skills are, what she can actually do, which is she's an excellent teacher. She teaches an earther how to speak Belter. And they become attached, and he goes running to save her when there are riots in the Rossi Burt. And because of that, he becomes impaled, and that storyline turns.
He's my next guy, so don't go too far.
But anyway,
Havelock will come later.
the point being that Gia is one of those primary characters at the beginning of the story that introduces you to everything, and then her story ends very sweetly, at least from my point of view. Even though she didn't really exist in the books, her narrative is one of, look, here's somebody who's super oppressed, she's in a very vulnerable position because she doesn't have an apparently marketable skill except to sell her body, and that turns out to be something that she's very good at, but she's even better at something else, which is empathy and teaching and explaining things to people, and she could have had a whole different career in a different economy or different circumstances, or she could have blended them both.
And she looked like a Belter too, didn't she? Mm-hmm. That was excellent casting. That was excellent casting.
There was some CGI work too.
Did they really do
Sarah,
something with
Sarah Middich, who's the actor, is not really 7 feet tall, but
that? Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't think she was 7 feet
Well,
tall.
yes.
But she looked like she was,
She was very thin.
Yeah.
Just to check, how many people out here agree with me that ships are characters? Okay, enough of you. So that's why my next No Small World character that I picked was the Canterbury, because this ship does so much heavy lifting in just one episode that it draws you into the universe in so many remarkable ways. And I will start to say, as as an astronomer and as a scientist, I have my whole life grown up with sci-fi, that in loving it, enjoying it, but always having to turn off 2/3 of my brain to watch it because it's beautiful, but it's absolute nonsense. I sat down to the first episode of The Expanse. We jumped onto the ship that I assumed was going to be the ship we were going to be on for the show. And this Canterbury, all of a sudden, everything that was happening on this ship made sense. The nature of the community of the people on board made sense. It drew you into this idea of the world. It became the story of the massive amount of work you had to do to shuffle raw materials around to make places like Ceres even vaguely habitable, and how critical any one component on that supply chain was for the future. And when you get to this moment where you get a distress call and you have to make a decision, are you going to follow the law and intercept, or just get your bonus at the end? They decide, ultimately, because of Holden, they have to stop and they have to turn around. And the very act of turning around a ship that isn't well entrenched on a course on a slow, long burn is a point of drama. I have never been so excited in any movie or TV show watching a ship change course. And it was remarkable. But in that moment, it puts so much of the reality of this world on you and establishes this playbook that this show will continue to play by going forward, that there is a visceral reality about what you can and can't do in this universe, and that there's a heavy burden to be paid, like on changing course, changing direction, the toll it takes on humans. So much that Canterbury gave us so much in that first episode before its untimely, horrible destruction. And of course, it lived on. I see Remember the Cant. It's on the shirt back there. The fact that it became the show's first and sadly not last martyr, and as so often the case in martyrs, often became a corrupted version of what the actual enemy was. But even so, it became such an incredible way to carry the story forward based on the story of what happened to the Canterbury. Yeah, flip and burn. When the words flip and burn came, I melted, because it's like, yes, that's how ships actually work. And every time in the show after the Canterbury, when they showed a ship arriving at its destination with its engines pointing towards the destination, because you slow down when you get to where you're in, as opposed to Star Wars, where every ship is like accelerating into the landing bay. Like, no, this is stupid. So yes, thank you, Expanse.
Totally
You're the only show I can watch and not just cry quietly.
Y'all must have fell in love with that. You NASA JPL people.
Oh my God! Like,
Well, they did.
How about the spin gravity?
Yeah.
Spin gravity?
yes.
Well, the fact that the cast and crew, they explained they actually had to build up a little chart for the directors that came on the show who may not have a physics background, and every director, they would actually explain to them the difference between planet gravity, where how that works, spin gravity, where you're pointing out the other way, and there are effects like Coriolis effects, and acceleration gravity, that you're in a tower. And that they would actually have to coach every director so that they understood in each scene, like a transition between thrust and no thrust means gravity to no gravity. All these things they would do so that the directors would have the tools they needed to tell the story authentically. Just remarkable.
teaching science,
Robert?
Wow.
Yeah, Robert, could you tell us how you really feel about it?
Okay, if you want to be honest.
I'm with you.
Our shrinking violet.
Well, going along with what he says, this next person has something to go along with what he just said.
Hello, WonderConvicts. Bob Monroe here of The Expanse. I'm currently up in the 51st state. Wish I could be there at the con with you guys down in the 11th province or 4th territory. We're still not quite sure what we're going to call you. In addition to being a producer and the senior visual effects supervisor on The Expanse, I was also quite often the second unit director. Second unit director, typically we shoot things like action or visual effect sequences or things that don't involve principal cast. Although quite often, principal cast will become a performer on the second unit, but more often than not, you get to work with secondary characters, tertiary characters, special characters who are in for a particular reason, stunt people or special skills actors. So you do get to work a lot with the people who are not, I would consider to be the primary, the leads of the show. But the one thing that I always have found is that every actor, whether they're a primary actor or they have one word in an episode, they bring everything to it. As Stanislavski said, the acting coach said, many decades ago, there's no such thing as a small role. There are only small actors. And then the great thing about working with people who are, maybe up and coming or have decided this is the career path they want to take. They don't leave it on the table. They bring everything to their performances, and that's again why a show like The Expanse is so rich in the people in front of the camera. Great casting all around. Even Adam Savage, my buddy Adam Savage, got to kill him off on The Expanse, which is great. And Adam was thrilled to be, in the show. He didn't dial it in any way, shape, or form. So it's you always have great experiences with secondary characters and actors across the board. But a great example of how things can happen in a way that you don't expect. We were trying to cast the teenage Katoa, teenage young adult Katoa, the transitionary phase between the young 12-year-old boy and the monster that ends up, on screen as a fully CG creature. And we had auditioned a few people, and one of them was, one or two of them were looking okay, but still hadn't found really what the character that I thought would be right. And one day, one of the companies that I used for the visual effects, Spin VFX in Toronto, I was at their studios doing rounds, looking at work in progress, and there was a young man I saw, and I thought, my goodness, he could be the older Katoa. And I started asking around, and his father, who worked at Spin, who was a very good friend of mine, was the head of the CG modeling, the computer modeling department. And I asked if his son did any acting, and he said, he was just starting to get into it, and he, the dad was working on The Expanse, and I said, I really need to cast a role. Do you think he'd be interested in auditioning? His name's Jordan, and I went over and talked to him, and I basically said, or asked that, would you be interested in auditioning for a role in The Expanse as a creature? And if you do audition and you do get the part, would you be interested in shaving your head? And he said yes to both of those things, and came in for an audition. And at the end of it all, I walked into Narain Shankar, the showrunner, walked into his office, and I said, okay, well, we've auditioned all these people, and I think Jordan's the right one for the show. And Narain said, well, you've got to make it work. So whatever you think is best, go ahead. So we cast Jordan, and he became the creature in the glass sarcophagus, and did an amazing job, take after take after take after take. And here was a young man that basically had maybe 1 or 2 acting credits under his belt, minimal at best, and just brought everything to the performance. So you never know where you're going to find the talent, but you do know that you are going to be very pleasantly surprised when these secondary and tertiary characters are on screen, and the energy and the professionalism and the performance that that the actors bring to those roles. So that's a little bit of a backstory on one of the examples of how a great actor ends up on The Expanse. It was a fun process all along, and it's just another thing that goes into making a show like The Expanse work. It's a very, very multi-layered process, and you get what you put into it, and you get out of it. So you get out of it what you put into it, and I think we did great in terms of casting on that show. Sorry, this has gone on a little bit too long. I'm probably going to be tariffed at like 25%, so I don't want to incur any more costs here. So anyway, enjoy the conference, guys. Pleasure chatting with you. Wish I was there, and we'll see you next time. Yeah, I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm saying.
You guys, we're getting short on time, so we're going to have to move past this. You're going to have to come down our next time, and so we'll do the next season too, and some more of these roles. Here we are, and how to contact some of us, right? And this is, if you've never seen this video, it's one of the most brilliant and quintessential, what should be the Expanse. It captures the essence of the Expanse, okay?
And especially for all those people who just showed up because they're showing up for the next panel and maybe you haven't heard of the Expanse, watch this and then go and
Get hooked.
Get hooked.
When I was little, I was fascinated by stars. I thought they were magic. When I grew up and I learned the real explanation for the stars, it became even more amazing.
Is it everything you thought it would be?
That way is the unknown. And yeah, there might be scary stuff. There might also be magical things.
Earth, Mars, the Belt, the OPA.
Who do we fight for? Mars!
Earth must come first. It's all bullshit. Shouldn't be any teams.
It's a beautiful dream, and I hope I'm around to see it come true. But in this world that we live in order to survive, you have to pick a side.
They see the stars, and they think, mine.
You know, everything going on out there, it's all got to do with her. Julie Mao.
Protomolecule is proof that we're not alone in the universe.
Eris changes everything.
If we master it,
What the hell is that thing?
we can apply it.
We're going on a hunt. If that thing out there really is some sort of human proto-crap hybrid, then
What happened to my team?
we're yesterday's model.
Lids on and button up.
If the protomolecule was here, it could be in 50 other places by now, too.
We're just gonna have to find all of them. As long as we're living and breathing, there's more we can do. We just have to be strong enough.
The protomolecule has changed everything, except everything it didn't. I don't ever remember a time when Earth, Mars, and the Belt weren't fighting. Sides change sometimes. We think we're fighting for who we tell ourselves are the good people. But it just seems we can't ever stop fighting war after war after war. Got it!
If Ganymede really was a test, it's just the beginning.
It's a brilliant video. It's on YouTube, and it was done by Zurich23. He's a Russian fellow. He's very nice. I've chatted with him, and is absolutely brilliant. If you know The Expanse, that's the quintessence of The Expanse right there in that video. It just captured all the things happening and all the emotions and the feeling. So I want to thank you all for showing up. It was nice having more people out there than up here, so that was good. And hopefully, if you guys want to see more Expanse things, we want to do one at San Diego again, right? And so I would love you all to kind of let San Diego know, and and let Mr. Eddie Ibrahim know that you want to see more Expanse, and then hopefully we might be able to get some of the people that you saw on the film here. We might be able to get them, to show up at there.
Show up in the talkback room on Sunday.
Yeah, talk back and let them know. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And then hopefully, if they can show up, you guys get to meet them in person and stuff. And if you guys remember, if you show up and you remind me, and they really are there and we're there, I will introduce you. Okay? Fair? All right. Thank you guys very much.
And if you want a prize, please meet us out in the hall afterwards so we can get a picture with you.
Thank you.